Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Real Talk Show with Marsha-Ann. As you know, Real Talk is designed just with you in mind. For Real Talk, the mission is to engage, encourage, empower, and educate you. Most importantly, I desire to be that conduit where you can truly understand the importance of living your life purpose, your passion, and enriched by prosperity. So, this evening is no different. This evening, I have the pleasure of having one phenomenal, over the top, amazing, confident woman. My fellow, I am going to consider her just such a great soul. And I have such admiration for Sarah. And I don't even know if she knows how much I do, but I believe I'll tell her in this episode. So welcome to the episode. It's episode 17 of season 2 of Real Talk. And for those of you who have been joining all this time, thank you so much for being faithful. Thank you for coming. For those of you who are going to catch the replay, I know it means a lot for you to give us an hour of your time, but I will tell you this. There isn't a show that I have had that the guests who have been handpicked, that I have prayed for, they have poured out their hearts and soul. And in life, I believe once you show up authentically, that's all that matters. So all of us will gain something from today. Hi, everybody. Drop in the chat where you're joining us from. Some of my faithful people are on here. Welcome. So good to see you. And I'm so happy that you're here to give Sarah all the love in the world. So who on earth is Sara Stanford? I am actually going to read excerpts of her very powerful bio. And I'm choosing to say excerpts because I am one to believe that once you've got your bio, you are a walking testament to who you actually are. And so the words on paper happen to be one thing, but they're going to get to know the who you are. So you are Edward in boot. Listen to you know, I don't believe Edward made me just read that. He's Edward in Booyard for today. You made me catch that. I thought you were in some fancy place.
Oh my God.
So who is Sara Stanford? Well, you know her social media handle, and we'll actually have Brian Stanford, her biggest cheerleader, and her sister on here as well. Drop it in the chat for us. Drop it in the chat, her social media handle. She's an entrepreneur with over 18 years experience building and leading business growth in her industries. She's the founder of Bliss Bridal Boutique, the Caribbean's leading bridal salon, and has been dubbed the fairy godmother by her brides. She does wave a little wand and pixie dust comes and she makes everything happen. She single-handedly changed the wedding dress industry in Jamaica by flipping the script and turning wedding dress shopping into a unique bridal experience. Creator of the largest bridal trunk show in the entire Caribbean, Sara Stanford has served over 5,000 brides. I repeat, over 5,000 brides. With that in mind, she has created the brand Sara E Bridal, an online platform for everything bridal, from on-the-day styling to dress shopping to DIY wedding planning, online wedding planning services, and so much more. As a public speaker, Sarah continues to bring awareness to causes such as vitiligo, as well as, and this is a real commonality that we have, the ability to empower young, aspiring, and I'm not limiting it to entrepreneurs, young, aspiring people, but especially entrepreneurs in her case, with her story. She captivates her audience with her unique storytelling style and has the ability to engage and take them on a journey with her. She has been featured, we've got a star amongst us, ladies and gents, Just Up Magazine, Jamaica Observer, Jamaica Gleaner, United for Vitiligo, Smile Jamaica, NCB Capital Quest, the reality series where she was first place runner-up, Long Story Short, and many others. And to add to that, She holds a Bachelor's of Science degree in Human Resources Management from FSU. And now she's a guest of the Real Talk Show.
Yay. I'm gonna put that at the top of my bio the next time.
Exactly. Without any further ado, please give a resounding applause. Extend your welcome to Sara E. Stanford. Hello, Sara.
Hi, Marsha-Ann. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, Marsha. You know that I am a huge fan of yours. When I actually made the post that, the little thing that we did that I was coming on here, I said, you are my muse. I don't know if I remember the very first time we met, but I remember one of the first times I saw you speak at the Jamaican Bridal Expo, and I sat back and I watched you, and I was in awe of not just what you were saying, but how you were saying it, and the confidence and the grace and the elegance in which you carried yourself. I asked Brian, I was blown away, absolutely blown away. So I'm completely honored that over the years we've developed a friendship, professional relationship, whatever you want to call it, that we are now here together, having this conversation. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Well, it's the Mutual Admiration Club. For those of you who don't know Sara, I will tell you what has always been top of mind for me. She walks into a room and you have no choice to know that she has entered. The confidence, but most importantly, the very endearing spirit. I believe that you exude that. And so you're very, very welcoming. And that endearing spirit, I believe, speaks to the loyalty that you just spoke about a while ago, that who I see is who I get.
Right.
And for me, I'm a magnet to authenticity. I truly repel anything that is fake. Like my fake detector is very, very high. So when I see real coming through the pores, in and out of season, I have an admiration for that. And so that's one of the reasons why I believe we've been able to connect in this fashion. Now, yes, she does. Someone else agrees with me.
That's my friend Mikey. Thanks, Mikey.
So why did I choose Sara? I believe it's really important for us to have a very candid conversation. All of us would agree that the last 14 months of our lives, now 15 months, have never, ever been anything like this. And I truly believe that a lot of us have had to meet our new selves, or in fact, go into the cracks and crevices of who we are to find out the recesses of our strengths. And one of the things that I have always admired about you, Sara, is that you exude confidence. But confidence, a lot of us don't understand that one just does not come into this world and remain confident all our lives. As toddlers, we have no fear. We expect to be loved. We expect to be nurtured, babies, toddlers. But then along life's journey, things will happen that has the ability to erode that confidence. And so, much like in construction, if that foundation begins to crack, we have to determine what are some of the principles and strategic methods we can use to improve our confidence. So I am actually crowning Sara as the queen of confidence, the queen of empowerment, and the queen of resilience. Confidence, empowerment, and resilience. But it never just started like that. I want you to tell me more about how you are able to put these building blocks at your foundation, that when your earth has been shaken, you have been able to still hold on to your confidence, your empowerment, and your resilience. And not in that order. Let's talk. Over to you.
Real talk. So, okay, it's no surprise to anybody I have vitiligo. And I think they say everything in life happens for a reason. And although I've had my ups and downs with vitiligo, I've never regretted having it, because I believe it was the catalyst that made me who I am today. So, coming up as a young person, so these white spots start coming up and I start going through all the different emotions, and I really have to, it's for me, it started with my parents, right? Because they continued to, and my father, Marsha, they continued to instill a level of confidence. Yes, you're different, but, right? And continue to let me know how smart I was, how beautiful I was, how I could be anything I wanted to be in the world. And, we all hope that all of our parents can do that for us. But even when they do, it doesn't mean that it necessarily sticks. So as time goes on, and I wasn't really teased a lot at school, but what I got a lot on the road was stares. People staring at me, little children kind of cringing when they would see me, all this. And there was a point where it was really taking a toll, because I didn't know how to respond. People would stare and I'm like, okay, but I was always told it was rude to stare, so I don't want to stare back at them. You know what I mean? But they were being rude by staring at me. So I had to learn how to then start to become comfortable, literally, in my own skin. That when somebody stared at me, I didn't feel this hurt and anger to have to, stare back or be rude or whatever. So I started to develop a mechanism where when somebody stared at me, I would ask them, is there something you would like to ask me? Right? Because one, that put them off a little bit, because I don't think people expected that. And two, it was an opportunity for me to teach people what this was. Right. So the next time they saw somebody that, was black and brown, black and white at the same time, they wouldn't stare. And I think what that did was that allowed me to start to build up a little bit of protection around me and confidence. And then it also forced me to talk to people. Because when you would stare, I would say, is there something you'd like to ask me? Do you want to touch my skin? Is there this, that? And so I would start talking to people and gaining that level of confidence. And then as time went on, I just became more and more comfortable in recognizing that this is who I am, right? And then just trying to figure out how to not just be comfortable in it, but exude who I am despite it. Right. So one of the things I developed as a very young person, I think I was probably a teenager or maybe my early 20s. I don't remember. And to this day, I do it, even though over COVID, I think, I'll tell you guys, I'm 200 pounds now. I was like 175 before COVID. Right. So but to this day, every morning or at some point in time during the day when I'm getting dressed or whatever, I look in the mirror and I always find something good to say about myself. It's something I've done for years. And because I think actually that was in a response to feeling like I was too enough, right? Or too full of myself, because I kept on saying, well, if I can, speak bad about myself, or everybody can find fault with this, or your bottom too big, or this, that, why can't I also tell myself, oh my gosh, Sarah, your hair is a wreck or whatever. I make it a point to always find something good about myself, whether it's a physical appearance or whether I know I killed it today with a particular dress that or I made a bride cry or whatever it is. I'm always going to find something good about myself, because too often we are constantly telling ourselves all the negative stuff. And I do that. My husband will tell you, I am at fault with that, with the negative speak. I have to make a conscious effort to get that negative stuff out my head sometimes, but there will always be a positive that I find. And I think over time that has allowed me to build up my confidence. And it helped me that when someone said something bad, I was like, okay, you clearly don't know
who you're talking to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That is such a vital nugget. I mean, I believe that a few things. One, first and foremost, the boldness to be able, is there a question that you'd like to ask me because you're staring? But you're not saying you're staring, you're actually inviting that question. That's one. And then two, to really be able to affirm oneself. And I will tell you, we have such commonalities for different reasons about hearing at some point or another in life that we're too much or we're too enough. You know, I got that myself. And one of the things that I excite myself with is I do affirm myself without apology,
Yep.
openly in front of a mirror. Girl, you look so good today, you know, or today is going to be the best day of my life, because not just leaving it there,
Right.
because these are the things that I know I am going to do, you know. But it's so important to be able to embrace who we are and forget about and it's not easy, but it has to be a deliberate choice every single day of life.
Right.
You know, and
Right.
we are blessed to have had an environment that provided encouragement.
Right.
Right? That's such an important foundation to be able to have. But many never necessarily had that. So our job is to see how we can nourish those who don't have that, nourish those who need to have that, and meet them where they are and help them along the way. Because whenever confidence is eroded, you know, here's a harsh reality. Once confidence is eroded, everything else around you tends not to thrive.
Right.
Because
I mean,
thriving comes
if it
from
is
within.
that, sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'm saying that to thrive, it comes from the belief of one's ability to do.
Correct. Correct. And if you don't have the confidence in yourself that you can do X or Y, you're going to try it, but you're not going to give it 110% because you're already expecting to fail.
Correct.
So
Correct. I love your confidence approach. But I would ask you then further, the resilience. When did you know that you had that resilient spirit? Because we don't all have it. There are those of us who will curl up in a corner, pull the covers over, and we're going to stay in that corner until we believe somebody comes with your pixie and your magic wand to change it.
Right. Right.
But
for
tell
me,
about that.
So picture it. I graduate college. I get a big job in New York City at Lockheed Martin. Not a big job. I felt it was a big job because it was my first job. So I moved to New York. I am, doing the New York thing, whatever. And the job I had before in Miami, the HR director called me and said, hey, we have a position. We want you to come back. We'll pay for you to move back to Miami, whatever. I'm like, okay, great. So I pick up and I move back to Miami. And, I'm working and I'm doing my thing, whatever. And 9/11 happens. Right? So when 9/11 happens, everything just kind of, the airline industry starts to, really feel a lot of stuff starts going on. But I was still able to retain my job in the company that I was working for. My manager at the time, which was this wonderful lady, an African-American lady, she was retiring. And so they put this other lady to take her position. And I just felt like she didn't really like me. Right? And so I got to a point one day where I just said, I quit. And they were like, what do you mean you quit? I said, I quit. I don't want to work here anymore. So they said, well, can you at least give us a 2 weeks notice? So on and so forth. I was young, probably wasn't the smartest thing. I don't think I gave them a full 2 weeks. In retrospect, courtesy, I should have given them 2 weeks. But I quit my job having no other prospects because why? As I said earlier, my what can make patty. Well, 3 months unemployed later, right? I was at the time, I was going to the library and setting up my resumes because, I had to fax them at the time, aging myself as well. And I was doing all that to the point where I said, I'm just going to go to law school. I'm just going to find the money, get financially. I'm just going to go to law school. And my father called me and said, Sarah, and he lived in Jamaica. I was in the States. He said, why don't you come back and take over my business? I was like, I'm sorry, what? And he says, come back and take over my business. I said, Daddy, I left Jamaica when I was 11. I don't know. I don't have, other than you, I don't really have a support group. I don't know people there. I don't know how am I going to move back. And he says, well, think about it and stuff. And I called a girlfriend of mine and she said to me, Sarah, do you realize how lucky you are. How many people get an opportunity to create a legacy or to, just have a business and to be able to, and I said, you know what, you're right. So I just picked up, packed my bags like within the next month, and I moved back to Jamaica, not knowing anything. I mean, thank God for my father, because I had the support, but
Right.
I think the resilience and confidence came in where I said, okay, well, I quit my job, right? Let me just do it and see what happens. And it was a challenging transition, but I just knew that I made the decision, and I really didn't have much of a choice but to succeed in some which way, shape, or form. And that's how my journey in Jamaica as an entrepreneur really kind of started. But it was because I took a leap and I just had faith and you know what? I don't know if I had faith and confidence. I just feel like I had no choice.
Right.
But because I put myself in that position, I had no choice but to figure it out. And so sometimes I feel like I'm still figuring it out. But at the end of the day, that's what I did. So that's one example I would use in terms of resilience and just doing what needs to be done because it just needs to be done.
Right. But you'd have had others since, because then that's when the muscle of resilience began to develop.
Well, yeah. So needless to say, my father and I working together, that didn't really work out. Love him to death. We're thick as thieves, but just business wise, that wasn't going to work. And so then my brother and I started something together, and that had its ups and downs. And then I think probably the best example of resilience then would come into, last year. Mm-hmm. I mean, and this is not, this is not screeching halt. Screeching halt. Everything shut down. No weddings. I think that first week when the Prime Minister announced the lockdowns, I'm trying to remember the numbers now. I think I had about 50 to 60 wedding cancellations, that Monday or Tuesday. Just everybody just calling, cancel or postpone, cancel or postpone, and then it just continued because no one knew what was happening. And so I'm like, okay, well, where's the money going to come from? Mm-hmm. And we had just moved Bliss into this new complex on Arden Road where the rent is significantly higher than what I was paying before, right? So there came a point where I didn't know if this was going to continue, but I had to, again, just try and find the faith, try and keep positive, which was hard. Mm-hmm. And then said, okay, well, I need money. So what can I do? What do I know better than anybody else in my industry? What can I monetize? And how can I get it done? And I sat down over a period of 3 days and wrote an ebook on how to plan your wedding in Jamaica. Amazing. And I had to do it.
Amazing. You just posed 3 questions. Pose them again.
What do I know better than anybody else? What can I monetize? And I don't know why I don't remember the third one. What was the third one, Marsha?
What do I know more than anyone else?
Yeah.
What can I monetize? Yeah. And you put it into action. I don't remember exactly.
Yes, right. I don't remember the exact words, but yes.
You put it into action.
The first step for me, and I would tell anybody who is even, because during these times, lots of people have lost their jobs and trying to figure their way and don't know if they should try and start a business, what they should do. What I've recognized is that most people, there is a talent you have, but you don't recognize it as a talent because it just comes naturally to you. Mm-hmm. You do it every day and you don't think about it. There's a gentleman on here. His name is Mikey. I don't know if he's still here. When Mikey and our friends hang out, Mikey will be sitting there and he's just singing. He just has this voice and he's just singing. And every time I'm like, oh my God, Mikey, I love your voice. I love your voice. He's starting to make records. He's starting to make records and tracks now. Right on his, and he posts his stuff on his Instagram page and he's making moves and he's doing his thing. He had this talent. Mm-hmm. And at some point in time, he decided he's going to put it to work. So many of us have a skill or a talent that we don't know we have because it's just such a part of you. For me, it was fashion and weddings and bridal, I didn't know I had a talent. I didn't think I was any different than any other woman out there that likes wedding dresses, but I have an eye and I have an ability to allow women to see themselves in a way that they didn't see themselves before, based on how I dress them, based on how I accessorize them, based on the guidance and the advice that I give them, that I didn't realize I had until, I started to put it to work. So then now during COVID, I'm like, okay, I have all of this. I have all of these resources at my fingertips. What do I do with it? How do I monetize it? How do I make money out of it? How do I help people with it? How do I grow my business? All these different things started to come into play. And some things have worked and some things haven't, but that's okay. It's trial and error.
You just said a very important aspect too, eh? Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times we believe that our talent, which we downplay, like you say, it comes so easy for us. But a big part of that talent, you just said it, how can I help someone else too? Because you are the answer to someone's problem.
Right.
Your book is the answer that many a brides need. Mm-hmm. And you could have continued in the busyness of your day-to-day routine, but because of COVID, you had to shift gears so swiftly to determine for yourself, what do I have? Where am I strongest? Right. Where am I a thought leader? Right. That no one else can do it quite like me. Right. And I don't believe that's a question that we ask ourselves enough. Coming back to the same conversation, if we ask that question, does it mean that we're imposing this which we know is our strength on others? That's exactly what we're supposed to do. Right. Write that down for yourselves. Everyone on here, if you don't believe you're tapping in to what I call, I started through COVID, what I call activate your greatness. Mm-hmm. Which is this ability for us to remind ourselves that the greatness that's within us, God has already given us this incredible greatness. It's in our DNA. But many of us have allowed it to go dormant, mm-hmm. or we've downplayed it. Or in your case, as well as mine, we just think, oh, these things come so naturally to us. It's no big deal. Mm-hmm. And all you need to do this evening is to light that fire and ask yourself, what is it that I do so amazingly great? What is it that I am so known for? What is it that people come to me for? What excites me? What ignites me? That's so natural for me, yet still I've only scratched the surface of it, or I've done absolutely nothing with it. Mm-hmm. And until we ask those questions, it means that we're just on the same hamster wheel, doing, being, existing, but not necessarily thriving in our area of genius.
Agreed, 100%. And that whole thing about down talking, mm-hmm. I've been guilty of it. I found myself being guilty of it with a new project that I've had in mind, and I've been wanting to do it, and just, I just kept on making excuses, and I realized the other day, Sarah, why do you keep making excuses for this? Just do it, and we have a way where I think it's human nature to a certain extent, but you have to take steps to get out of what, seems normal to you, where we just say, oh no, nobody wants to hear that. Or no, I saw this person do it and they're so much better than me. Or no, people are going to make fun of me. I don't know why it is. And I don't know if it's human nature or women do it more than men, but we just have this tendency to continue to, cultivate this negative speak in our heads. Mm-hmm. And it's a thief of time.
It really is. It absolutely is. And I am often paralyzed by it myself. Mm-hmm. And I didn't even know how badly I was affected by my own ability to downplay or justify in my mind, oh, well, maybe you're not able to do that. Or the infamous, because we're so hard on ourselves, that we think, oh, it's not going to be done to that great level. So we trade in progress for perfection. And perfection is the worst thief of every ounce of who we truly are, because we are in fact meant to make small, deliberate, consistent steps towards our progress versus that of perfection, which is it really is a killer.
Well, you know what's interesting, as you mentioned perfection. Wow, I'm thinking about, I think our desire to have perfection comes from our fear of having people criticize us.
Fear of judgment.
Yeah, because we could do it and, do it to the best of our abilities. It may not be perfect and we're fine, but just the thought that somebody else on the outside may say, oh, why should I go do that for, or whatever, that's what ends up crippling us, because we know we can do a good job, but we're not really, our mind is telling us, but what is everybody else going to think?
Right. And that fear of judgment has had many of us hold back on dreams, hold back on visions, hold back on helping others who are waiting on us to do that one or two or three things.
Mm-hmm.
And here is the issue. We are the only ones having the conversation with ourselves, because guess what? They would not know if it's done great or otherwise. They wouldn't know your measure.
Mm-hmm.
So it is something that we have to be so mindful of. Progress over perfection. In fact, I made a quote earlier this afternoon on exactly that, because I had to have a conversation with myself, which is very famous. You do it too, right, Sarah?
Mm-hmm. All the time.
Yeah, man. So I was belaboring doing something very well, the spirit of excellence.
Mm-hmm.
And I was belaboring how, well, I don't think it's going to come out right. I won't do it yet. And then I had that firm conversation, young lady, yes, young lady, me, do remember that a big part of you achieving what you need to do means you've got to take some small steps. When was the last time we saw a toddler attempting to walk and they fall down and say, I'm not going to walk again?
I'm done. Mm-hmm.
When was the last time? Never.
Mm-mm.
Never. Yes, all of you drop that in the chat. Progress over perfection. It is so important.
Mm-hmm.
And so I believe all of us who have had issues with being overachievers, because we're the ones that tend to be crippled with that more than others.
Mm-hmm.
We are the toughest critics upon ourselves. We are overachievers. We want to get it right. But can we just start doing it before we focus on getting it right?
Right. Yeah.
So today,
when you said that you're doing it for other people, because your measure, he said other people don't know your measure. Your measure for perfection could be just, I got it done.
Exactly.
But then you're going to sit there and worry about other people and say, oh, yeah, but you didn't do it in the same amount of time, or it didn't have this resolution, or you got it done.
And guess what? It's your life, not theirs.
Right.
And it's time that we stop having the shadow. The only shadow that ought to follow us is our own shadow, but not the shadow of other people who God never designed to direct your blueprint.
No.
Your blueprint is by God's design, and your function is to literally follow that path. So I value so much that you said in the time of COVID, you really took life to the next level and identified what is it that you are so strong at? What is it that you are known for? And then you took that to that next level of saying, I am going to master that. I'm going to package it. I'm going to monetize it.
Right.
And at the end of the day, guess what? Behind your name, author. You're an author. You never just did it.
No.
Introduce yourself to us now.
Well, oh my gosh, I'll be the first.
Real
Talk. Hello, Real Talk with Marsha-Ann guest. My name is Sarah Stanford, author and entrepreneur.
I'm serious. And
Do you know that's the
sometimes,
first time I've said that, Marsha?
and I was just going to say, sometimes the next level of not downplaying it is to own exactly who you are and what you do.
Because Brian said to me one time last year, something about book, he goes, Sarah, you realize you can put author behind your name? I'm like, no, not really. I said, it's just like, you know, a 100-page ebook. It's not that big. He's like, Sarah, seriously? I said, but he's like, stop. And I'm like, okay. You know, because to me, I just sat down and I just typed. And then I sent it to somebody to edit it for me. And I'm like, okay, yeah, okay. But apparently,
Talia just said it best. You have to own it.
Yes.
Because we do this a lot, and you just said it. Oh, it's just an ebook. Was it not your heart, mind, body, soul?
Most definitely.
Did you not spend time with it?
Most definitely.
Isn't it your intellectual property?
Yes, ma'am.
If that's it, and God gave you the vision to do it, you executed it, and it now exists.
Right.
After today, say it for us one last time so you own it. Who are you?
Sara Stanford, author and entrepreneur.
And the name of your book?
Oh gosh, why am I drawing a blank? Sorry. The Jamaican Bride's Guide to Wedding Planning.
So that's the next exercise you're going to plan in front of the mirror.
Yes, sorry. The Jamaican Bride's Guide to Wedding Planning.
Because you have done it and you don't feel like you want to highlight it.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
Yeah. But after today, a part of this journey for all of us is really owning it. So Talia says, how many years of experience did you have to live through for just an ebook? You earned it.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Talia.
Yeah. So very important. And then from the genesis of speaking about the confidence, you've spoken about resilience. This is a commonality that we share. And this is one that I grew into more and more over this last year. And that's the importance of empowerment. Not because we've got it all together, not because we have all the answers to the test, but it's because we believe that what we have in us, we're able to share with helping others. In my case, I'm really very passionate about ensuring that I am this conduit to help, especially other women, and in particular, younger women, to own their strengths, to own their giftings, to own their greatness, and to walk in it. And so, Sarah, I know that empowerment is something that's big for you. Mm-hmm. And your connective dots come back from confidence and come back also with this resilience. But I will tell everyone that I made a call to Sarah last week. And that's after looking at the news, both locally and internationally, and identifying that there are so many women and young girls who have found themselves in such a compromising position, not necessarily physically, emotionally, psychologically. And we have had this conversation where I believe that if it is that there was confidence in self, if there was true support that undergirded a lot of them, they would not necessarily end up in situations of such great compromise where they feel that they are less than. So whether that's a personal or professional situation where they feel that they're less than, and therefore they have to put up with an abusive relationship, or they have to put up with accepting a job, getting paid less, knowing they're worth more, but because they don't feel good enough about themselves. And so we had this, I called Sarah last week saying, we are too strong together as women, who I believe we're all stronger together, because we are those who lift one another up. I am not a part of the society, nor do I choose, nor does Sarah choose to associate ourselves with anything or anyone that has the ability to pull us down. Those people can't thrive in our space because we're shining our light.
Right.
But as light bearers, it's not okay for us to shine our own light without us using our flashlights to get into the darker spaces to see who is hiding in the shadows because they're looking to us for upliftment. Tell me more about what empowerment means to you and your perspective, Sarah, on why is it that we're seeing so many of our young girls and women not step into that place of owning who they are, believing in themselves. And if you were to give one coaching tip, what is it that your tip would be to help them to begin to believe in themselves?
All right. So for me, empowerment, to me is not necessarily, I mean, it is a part of it, going on a stage and speaking and giving life and words to other, young women and stuff, but it's also about in practice. Mm-hmm. So my business, Bliss Bridal, it's female driven, right? And so all my staff have always been women. And I believe, I mean, they could tell me yes or no, the empowerment for me comes from just how I operate on a daily basis in my business. When they see how I deal with each staff member, each team member, whether it is somebody has an issue and comes to me, or when I say, hey, why is it that you went about it this way? Why, and just in terms of that aspect, in terms of just giving life to people just in my daily comings and goings. Every year, Brian and I with Bliss, we didn't do it last year or this year, but we do our trunk show. All right. And our trunk show services hundreds of brides over a weekend. And in order to do that, we end up hiring somewhere between, depending now, between 40 to 50 young women.
Wow.
Right at this show on the weekend. They're our bridal consultants. They help our brides get into dresses. They do everything, and it's over a weekend. And every year when I do it, I'm always shocked at how many women come out and want to be a part of it. Mm-hmm. And then when they leave, they say, oh my gosh, Miss Stanford. Oh my gosh, Mr. Stanford. What a wonderful experience. Now I feel like I can do a little bit more. And what we did last year, we gave all of them a certificate of completion, right? Mm-hmm. From Bliss Bridal. So now they're, a bridal consultant. They can put that on their resume. They can talk about it in interviews. So all of that. And I think what happens is, and I've heard it from a few of them that have come back, is it raised their confidence level, right? That a lot of them, they come to me, and when I do the training, because I do like 2 weeks of training before trunk show, and you can see some are very shy. You can see some of them need a little polishing up from the professional side in terms of how they present themselves, how they speak, how they're dressed. And in going over this 1 to 2 week training, you see the change. You see them evolve. You see when the brides start to come in and they're like, oh, hi, and they're all this light that's all around them that wasn't there when we first met 2 weeks ago, mm-hmm. right? So empowerment for me is there's a practical side of it as well. Mm-hmm. If people are there watching and seeing how you operate your life, whether it's personal, whether it's business, and it just gives them a little bit of a light, a little bit of an insight into what they could be if that's what they aspire to do. And that's how I see my empowerment of women is in just how I lead my life professionally, and personally. I'll have girlfriends who will say something to me, oh my gosh, Sarah, you're so confident, da, da, da. Or, I aspire to emulate X or Y. And there are women in my lives that I look at them like, my gosh,
right.
If I could only, be what you are or have some of these qualities. So I think as women, we can just draw on different things. Draw on the positives that we see in the women that we come in contact with.
Right.
Right? We're not drawing on the negative. We're not even talking about the negative. We're drawing on the positive. And if you're not sure where it comes from, just ask. I'm sure she'll be happy to tell you.
Facts of life.
Yeah.
What about social media? Because we spoke about last week, how social media has eroded the confidence of so many, because that space alone will be comparison will steal your joy if you're not strong enough as an individual, and the distractions of everything happening, and believing that at this age and stage of life, this is what I ought to be doing, or looking at someone else's life. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, most definitely. For me, I fell down that rabbit hole some time ago. And I think it was happening before 2020, but I think 2020 just kind of, got me all the way down, where I realized all the time I was spending on social media, I didn't put my phone down feeling better about myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's as real as I could be. I actually went through my phone, and there were tons of people, influencers, whatever you want to cut, that I just unfollowed, because there were some, if I'm to be as real as I can be, there are some I would look at, and I wouldn't feel happiness for them.
Mm-hmm.
They would post something they're doing, and I wouldn't feel, I'm like, why am I feeling this
way?
Why am I having these negative feelings of somebody I don't know you, right? And you're living your life and doing what you're doing. And I need to be living my life and doing what I'm doing, and not comparing. We can both have joy at the same time, and they don't affect each other one way or the other. So I started to unfollow quite a few accounts, and just stuff, and some like the gossipy, I guess is what it is. Some of those pages, I just got rid of them, and then started following other pages that I think would either make me laugh, make me smile, or give me some positive, put something positive into my soul, rather than what I was feeling before. And I found that helped me tremendously, because like I said, and I think 2020, just the type of year it was, it just made it worse. And so my advice to anyone out there that is struggling and finding themselves either constantly comparing or not feeling great when they're on social media, I mean, you can go extreme and come off if you want, but like me, I can't do that. I have my business pages and stuff like that. Just be very, very cognizant of what you choose to feed your mind, right? Because it will come out at some point in time in your daily life, whether it's in your interactions with your family, your spouse, and it's not beneficial to anybody. So if you need to start unfollowing people to help you get out of that space, then unfollow away.
Mm-hmm. I support that 150%.
Mm-hmm.
And managing one's time for the use of it becomes also.
I'm bad at that, Marsha. If Brian is still on this chat, I'm sure he's going to put. I am so bad at that. But in all fairness, I find that I'm not even so much on social media. Sometimes I call it what do I call it? Mindless entertainment.
Oh, once you start justifying and calling it a name.
All right, Marsha-Ann. Okay, fair. But yeah, so you can call it justification, but I call it mine. So, I'll play the little games. Oh, I thought it was Brian. I'll play the little games and stuff like that. I do spend more time than I should be spending on social media, if I'm to be honest. So that's something that I need to work on as well.
Yeah. So I actually, like how we say, put goals in front of ourselves,
Right.
that within social media, and in particular, we'll use Instagram or, as an example, which is my primary space. When you go into your insights and see the amount of time that you spend, you can really determine for yourself how much time you choose to spend.
True.
And become such a discipline, because I know that last year I too got into this little web where I was on it way too much. However, there's so many positives to social media, right? And the importance, though, Like anything else, you manage your time.
Right.
So how much time do you want to allot in a given day? That's something you could choose to do. And when I say you, meaning all of us, so it depends. Some folks might say, I give it 15 minutes morning, 15 minutes afternoon, 15 minutes evening, and you cap your time. You
Right.
can put the timer on the actual app itself where it shuts you out.
Right. Eddie
So,
says, why is social media so bad? It depends on what you're using it for. And I think that's
no,
what
we're not.
saying.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying about the utilization. However, Eddie, what I will contest is that there are proven statistics for those who are not strong enough in self-confidence that they are so consumed by what they're reviewing on social media that if it is unhealthy for them and triggering them to have a more diminished level of confidence or doubt in themselves or slip into a dark space, we have to accept some realities that some folks, it's an addiction for some. And anything that one is highly addicted to, then we have a saying, what if too much of one thing is good for nothing? So it really is a matter of managing it and managing it effectively. Sandra says, just like a relationship, know what part it plays in your life. What she uses it for is to inspire and share and to be uplifted. Correct. And the same for me, but I'm not residing on it. So I might be the one that's oftentimes accused of, I will share that post, but I'm not there long enough to see the engagement immediately after. And then I will see it when I go back on again. So I will be delayed in some of my responses. But when I do see them, I absolutely respond.
Yeah.
I believe that we can use it as such a powerful tool, Eddie. There is so much strength to be had from it. But like everything else, we must always be mindful how to create that balance. So we only have a few minutes left with Sarah, and I wanna cover a few things, and I invite questions to be shared here as well. The life of an entrepreneur can be perceived by the public. Oh, what? You get to manage your own time. It's glamorous. I have several entrepreneurs on here, so they're going to start lighting up the comments. Can be perceived as, oh my gosh, you're your own boss. You have nobody reporting to. All the comments, like talk about what is the perception, and then talk about the reality in your case. Tell us about the perception of things that you hear all the time and then the actual reality. Let's talk about the life of an entrepreneur. Go ahead, over to you.
All right. So the perception is, oh my gosh, you're so lucky. You have your own business. You can take off whenever you want to. You don't have to report to anybody. You write your own paycheck, all those things. And all those things are entirely true. However, oftentimes that paycheck is zero. Right? That's number one. Number two, to me, entrepreneurship is one of the hardest things that a person will ever choose to do in life. Right? Yes, it can be very rewarding, but it is ridiculously difficult. And it's a pet peeve of mine, Marsha-Ann. I feel like entrepreneurship has been glamorized because of social media, right? And everybody either is an entrepreneur or wants to be an entrepreneur, right? Entrepreneur is not a short-term thing. It is a long-term. As my bio said, 18 years. So when I moved to Jamaica, my brother and I started a business, Global Courier Services, and we had that for 10 years. And then we sold it to Mailpack. And then Brian and I started Bliss. So it's a journey. It is ridiculously difficult dealing with just ensuring that you are earning the money you need to pay the bills. And the good thing is, yes, you do have some control over that. So if you realize, that things aren't whatever, you can maybe say, okay, let me run this promotion, or let me do X, but there's still no guarantee. You know, when you're working your 9 to 5, you may not have the ability to increase your pay in that 9 to 5, but you know that pay is coming, right? One of the most challenging parts I've had as an entrepreneur, specifically with Bliss, is staffing. That's also a very difficult thing, because as you grow and you get more staff, that's more personalities. And then there's the legal side of it, you know, making sure all those ducks are in a row, and making sure you treat your staff with compassion and with respect, but yet still making sure that, you know, whatever needs to get done gets done. You know what I mean? And so the life of an entrepreneur it's very, very difficult. There were times, and Marsha, you know this, we had opened a location in Montego Bay.
Right.
Bliss opened in 2012. I think Montego Bay must have opened 2014 or 15. In retrospect, I think it was too soon. But having that business, and now having that branch, and now having to go to Montego Bay 2-3 times a week, you know, making sure that is dealt with, making sure the staff is monitored and everything that needs to be done is there, going back and forth, making sure everything is okay in Kingston. I remember when we were getting ready to open Montego Bay financially, whew, and I used to have a problem, and Brian helped me with this, where I dreaded Sunday nights. I dreaded Sunday nights because it meant Monday morning was coming.
Ouch.
And for me, Monday morning meant that, you know, the bill collectors or whoever was calling, this was going to happen, stress with this client, and in my mind on a Sunday night, my head was just going to explode. And I was what's the word? Not bitter. Anxious, snappy. I couldn't relax, and that went on for quite some time. And my Brian said to me, he's like, Sarah, do you realize how negative you're being? Because what was happening is it was affecting him.
Right.
He was trying to be positive, but I had all this negativity, and he's like, where is all this coming from? You know, you always look at the glass half empty, because when there was an issue, Marsha, I went to worst case scenario in my head. The store is going to burn down, you know, whatever. Whatever. And I think women are where we do that a lot.
Yeah, man, we visualize everything.
And then what happens is we start worrying about what we visualize and don't fix the problem that is actually there.
Wow.
So Brian said, you know, Sarah, if you stop thinking about all the terrible things that were going to happen, you could actually work on the one bad thing that's happening now. And so that's a tool that I have tried to employ, is I stop myself when I realize I'm going there. Right. But so we're talking about entrepreneurship. That's where, you know, it's one of the most rewarding things you'll ever do. I've done it for 18 years. Right. And when I was selling Global Courier, I actually went into life insurance for a year. I worked with Guardian for a year because things were winding down at Global, and I didn't have a job, and I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. And so I went into insurance for a year, and oh my gosh, I couldn't work in an office. I just couldn't do it. I'd been an entrepreneur for about 12 years by the time that happened. And so it's a give and take, like everything else. It's a huge give and take. It's ridiculously rewarding. I wouldn't give it up for the world. I really wouldn't. But it's rough when it's ready. But it's good.
I'm so happy. A very dear friend of mine is on here, and she says you're speaking the facts about overthinking the actual worst.
Yeah.
You know, as an entrepreneur, that's what you experience, and the onus is on you, and heavy is the head that wears that crown, right? Is what you're describing. So. Right. But kudos to you, and kudos to the other entrepreneurs that are on here. I know several that are actually on this now, and they all can relate to exactly what you're saying. Sarah,
yes,
we're gonna close by you sharing, if you had to give 2 tips, if you had to give 2 tips to anyone right now that really needs to boost their confidence and ignite the boss lady that's inside of them, What are the 2 tips? And you're at liberty to give 3 if you wish. But what are the 2 tips as we put the bow on the end of this show? What are the 2 tips that you would give to anyone who needs to just have that little boost with that inside of them and ignite the boss lady to the next level? Talk to us.
The first tip I would say is stop overthinking and just do it. Right? Whatever it is, and you talk about igniting the boss lady, because there's something that's in you that you have this urge that you need to do, but you just keep, just do it. Like Nike says, just get up and do it. You may fall down 5 times, 10 times. That's okay. Right? Fall down, get back up, do it again, do it differently, figured out what you did wrong, and just move on and get it done. Just do it. Mm-hmm. Right? Failure is not something to be afraid of. It's absolutely not something to be afraid of. I was afraid of it for years. I felt like if I failed at something, certain people wouldn't be proud of me and I wouldn't be able to move on and do something else. Failure is not nothing to be ashamed of. If you're an entrepreneur or trying to be an entrepreneur and you haven't failed, then you haven't tried hard enough. Right? That's number 1. Number 2 is speaking positive things into your mind. Try to minimize the amount of negative that content. Every time when you're sitting down watching TV or talking to your, mommy or husband or kids or whatever, and you find this negative speak, just stop yourself. You have to stop yourself. Take a deep breath, move on. Just put a period on it. Move on. Don't even think about why you were thinking about these negative things. It came into your mind, boom, move on. That's something that you can actually put into, just your everyday life and your interactions with people. When you're ready to, snap at your kids or whatever, no, put it. It's stealing your joy. It doesn't need to be there. It's not building you. It's not cultivating you. It's not doing anything but bringing you down and making you stress and an annoyance to yourself and other people. Just and every time, you may not succeed with every single thing, but if you can pull one negative thing out of your mind today, then tomorrow maybe you can pull 2. Right. And then the last thing I would say is, and some people may say it's superficial, but I don't believe it is, take care of yourself. Make sure you look good. Right? I could have come on this live today and just slapped on a little eyeliner and lipstick, but no, I'm on here with Marsha-Ann. I have to, do the whole thing up, right? So take whatever it is, if it's makeup, if it's working out, if it's eating properly, if it's a skincare routine, if it's getting your nails done, I am very, very lax on doing those things. I don't get my nails done often. I don't get pedicures often because I'm just like, oh, I'm so busy, I can't be bothered. But when you get them done, you feel so much better about yourself. Right. And even if it's something you have to do at home for now because you don't have the money to do it, that's fine. You can give yourself a pedicure, a manicure, do a little facial. They sell all these nice face masks in the pharmacies and stuff. Do whatever you need to do to feel good about yourself, because if you start to feel good about yourself, then it just kind of trickles down into other aspects of your life.
Absolutely. Well said. And I love this. Sandra is saying, a big part of boosting confidence, and I believe in this. Sandra, you're one of my persons for sure. Surround yourself with the right people. That's always so very important. Surround yourself with the right people for something that you want to do. Research, get trained to do what you plan to do. Believe in yourself. Always give yourself the best. We're those who remember that we teach people how to treat us. So if we treat ourselves very, very well, then obviously others around us will know that they ought to treat us in that fashion as well. And Shemaine, I thank you for putting that in. She put your nuggets in, that it's important to stop overthinking, speak positively, self-care, take care of you. And I'm adding in there, be very mindful of who you surround yourself with. Be very mindful of what you listen to. Be very mindful of what you watch, because we are the sum total of that small tribe that we surround ourselves with. And it has to be those who uplift us and those who elevate us and those who push us versus those who would actually do the opposite. So be surrounded by energy givers, not energy takers, and make sure that we are energy givers ourselves. Sarah
Can I say,
Stanford.
before you go, can I say one more thing?
Yes.
So sorry, Marsha. Just a quick little snippet. There's a young lady that I'm employing now, temporarily, but when one of my other staff members are going on maternity leave. The reason I'm employing her, she sent her resume to me 3 times over the past 2 years, every time I've looked for a job, and I got so many resumes, I just never saw it. She DM'd my personal account one day and said, Mrs. Stanford, I've been sending my resume, da da da. I'm like, really? I search her resume. I'm like, oh. And she goes, I don't know if you have any positions. I said, I don't have a permanent position now. I said, but I do have she goes, okay. I said, well, I want you to come in every Saturday for the next 2 months so we can train you to take over for this person's position while she goes on maternity leave. And she did that. And she's been coming to me for the past couple of Saturdays, and she starts full time next week. So don't be afraid of rejection. That's the thing I would say.
Absolutely. Rejection is redirection. It's all about trying and trying even harder. That's brilliant. And what a great testimony to all of us, right? I believe that is such an important nugget to end on. And this was phenomenal. Everybody's saying that you were super duper. We knew that already. I'm so honored that you would have joined us this evening. We did have a real talk session. We talked the talk, and it was real. And Real Talk is this space that I have created out of pure passion, and I did it afraid. For those of you who know it, I did Real Talk afraid, started it July last year, being afraid literally, Sarah, to go live. I'm like, I don't know how to speak to people on it. Yeah. Versus being on stage, which I thought I could do a lot more fluently. But whatever small progress that I have made in this space, it's for folks like you to come on and share your life's journey and for us to have a real talk. For those of you who joined for the first time, thanks again for joining. I'm Marsha-Ann, your hostess of Real Talk with Marsha-Ann. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Real Talk with Marsha-Ann, where you will get the weekly updates. This replay will be made available, and I invite you to share it with others, because at the end of the day, everybody could actually get reignited and get to our next level. June is upon us this week. We are already 6 months into 2021. Let's set our souls on fire and share this video that will be uploaded with others who missed out on seeing it today. So on that note, Sarah, thank you so much. She is a strong woman, and standing beside her always is her biggest cheerleader, who I must celebrate, Brian Stanford himself. He's not the man behind her. He's not the man in front of her, but he's the man beside her.
Amen to that.
I really celebrate what they share and how they share and support one another. And she wouldn't be here this evening. Come poke your head in here, Brian. Get your little shout out.
I don't know where he is. He was just in the
kitchen. That's all right. He's behind her in the shadow in that photo.
There you go.
So very much. Everyone is saying.
Thank you for having me, Marsha. It was a pleasure, an absolute pleasure.
Absolutely. And to everyone else, finish the month strong. You only have 1 month, 1 day to go. And remember your homework assignment. Ask yourself, what is it that you do that no one else does to the greatness that you do that the world needs? And it's time for you to step into that greatness and activate it. Rich blessings. God bless. Thanks again for joining. Bye, everyone. Stay on, Sarah.
All right.
Bye, everyone.